One sec. Okay. Hi, everyone. So thank you for joining us for the intro session for the upcoming course of Learn Unity in 8 weeks. My name is Tao, and I work at Playcrafting. We are the organizer of this course, and I have Khan here, who is the instructor of the course, and Shanine, who took the course with us previously. So for today, we would just, like run over like some information about the course curriculum and like what we'll be going over during the duration of 8 weeks. And we will be able to open to your question at the end. In the meantime, like we will try to like make this session as interactive as possible. So if you have any so like when Khan goes over like, like the question, just feel free to enter your answer in the chat. Can you go to the next slide?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so just a little bit about Playcrafting. We are a gaming startup based in New York, and we've been in business for a while, since 2000. So we started as a meetup group in 2005. And since 2015, we've been offering the Learn Unity in 8 weeks courses in New York, sometimes in San Francisco. And since last year, we started bringing the course online, and this is the 6th time that we offer the Learn Unity in 8 weeks in the online setting. So besides, like other courses, we also regularly hosted event before COVID, and that was always like a great way to, like bring all the game developers together. Our biggest event of the year was Play NYC, when we held the convention in the summer in New York City. And at the beginning of every year, we also hosted the biggest site of Global Game Jam in North America. So, and I will let Khan introduce himself.
Hi there, my name is Constantine. I go by Khan. I've been making games for more than a decade at this point. I always enjoyed tinkering with games when I was a little kid, but I haven't really got into making my own games till I was in college, and I worked at this indie sort of startup called Chronic Logic. We made lots of small kind of a neat, cute games, and we worked on some more ambitious projects making mods for World of Warcraft. It wasn't particularly successful, but it was a very interesting experience for me. And working there, I kind of realized that that's what I want to do with my life. I want to make games, and everything else just doesn't seem as exciting. At the time, I was a computer science major, so the programming aspect of things came kind of natural to me. Then I worked at Namco Bandai for a little while, and you probably know them from being creators of Pac-Man. But unfortunately, I didn't get to work on Pac-Man. I worked on Forsaken Kingdom and Dead to Rights, which both of those games were kind of Americanized versions of traditionally more Japanese games, so they didn't do so well, but it was an interesting experience. And I kind of learned there that I didn't really want to work for AAA studios. I was more interested in more an indie kind of a project, because you have a lot more freedom to decide what you want to do. But if you ever get a chance to work for AAA studio, you definitely should do it. It's a wonderful experience. You meet so many cool people, and you also get to learn how to work really hard if you have never done that before. Then I moved on to a few other ventures that were not games, and I hated those. One of them was making software for lawyers, and I was just no, that's not my thing. Then I moved on to Lumos, where it's Lumos Labs. We creators of Lumosity, the brain games. So I made a bunch of those games, and I got to work on lots of aspects of game making there. And I've been there for quite a while. And then a few years ago, I left and worked at another startup doing more augmented reality type thing. And then now I'm back to Lumosity making games, which is really fun. And I made a ton of personal projects. It's probably one of my favorite ways to like spend my free time is to make indie games. I just like, that's what I live for. So hopefully I can share some of my passion with you guys and like know how to make these games. These are like the sort of like projects I worked on. This like thing in the corner is the Micro Warrior that I worked on in college. And this guy, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but like this kind of in the center in the middle is actually, I call it Wizard Run, but it's a game that came out of a tutor in this class like a few years ago, back in like 2017. And as a tutor, I had a lot of like, I watched all these like game projects happening, and I decided to make my own while I was in the class, and I released it, and it was fun. So yeah, and this thing in the middle is like, when I worked at Ubiquity 6, we made this online sort of game engine where you can like take pictures of things, turn them into game assets, and then you can like script them, and then you can do all kinds of gamey stuff with them. It was really fun. So yeah, let's make this a little bit more interactive. So if you guys don't mind, write down in chat like what are your favorite games, so I can get a feel for what kind of stuff you guys interested in.
So
And yeah, what
is your favorite game?
Oh, my favorite game. So mine is XCOM, and not the remake of that game, but the original game that came out like 1992 or something like that. I used to watch my dad play it, and I was like so into it at the time, because like, I don't know if you ever played it or have seen videos of it. They have all these like characters that sort of like automatically get customized. They have like, some of them come from Russia, some come from the United States, France, and they like have different hair and like accessories and whatnot, and it was really fun. And then you go in these battles where you get in a situation when one of them has to die, and you like, oh my God, I can't let them die. How do I fix it? And you have, hopefully, if you're like saving along the gameplay, you're like, oh, I'm gonna reload and try to like play differently. And then you reload it like 1,000 times, and it's still not like the outcome you want. It was frustrating, but it was also really like fun to play it. Yeah.
Just want to say, yeah, okay, Kenneth, thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Wow, Kenneth, you got quite a list. What's a MTG?
Yeah, what is MTG?
You also put on like Call of Duty, Skyrim, Settlers of Catan, Borderlands. I love Borderlands. It's a great game. Mass Effect is a good game. Yeah, Brandon. Magic the Gathering, never had the pleasure of playing it, but oh, that's what MTG is. Cool. Dragon Quest, Knights in the Wood. Those are all good games. Can't say I play most of them. And I kind of stopped playing like shooter kind of oriented games a while ago, because, you know, there's so many of them out there, you can't keep up. Yeah, this is the XCOM I was talking about. It's super old, from the 90s, but it has a cute style, sort of like a retro at the time. So I loved it. My other favorite game is actually Warcraft 2. And this is kind of a sort of hard to replicate the moment, but the first time I've seen these like orcs standing on the game and like turning with all their animations, I was like, whoa, that's so cool. They seem to like stick out of the screen, but I later learned that it's just 2D sprites, and it's just really great art.
I actually remember playing this in back in Vietnam, like more than 10 years ago, on my bootleg game. Yeah, this is like one of the first games I played actually.
Yeah, it was also one of my first too. And like I made a bunch of maps for it. I ended up going and playing Warcraft 3 or World of Warcraft. Just that whole universe became like second home to me after a while. Yeah, but I think XCOM still beats it for me. So why should you take this class? Well, first of all, Unity is the most used game engine out there for for games currently, especially in the mobile space, because one, it's free, it's easy to use, and there's so many tutorials out there on how to do things. And like even till this day, I've been using it for like at least 8 years, and I still like watch tutorials on YouTube because there's always new things coming out and just like new techniques to do things. So it's a great game engine, and like learning it is so much easier than Unreal, for example, which is also a great engine, but like the ramp up is much harder there. So yeah, this course is a kind of a boot camp situation. So there's a lot of information, short amount of time, but you know, you have a deadline that's not far away. It's all manageable. And I think boot camp's a kind of great way to learn something quick and just to get you feel for it, whether you like it or not, like is it something you want to pursue in future. And this is also one of the few courses where you can use or where you can learn game design theory. We're going to touch on this a little bit later in the course, not from the beginning. And that's, I can't like say how important this is, because a lot of people end up making games, but a lot of them don't end up being fun. And like finding that sort of nugget that makes games fun is actually very difficult. And it takes practice, and like you gotta sort of learn how to fail and like how to weed out things fast, so you can like focus on the dream game you're trying to make. Yeah, and then there are obviously like tutorials on how to use Unity out there, but this course provides you opportunity to ask questions when you get stuck, because it's really frustrating where you have an issue and you don't know how to solve it. And having someone to ask for that is great. So in this course, we're gonna make a few games. We're gonna start with 3, which you're gonna complete. First of them will be a really easy Pachinko style kind of game. You're just using mostly built-in Unity components, and you know, the game is really simple. You just throw a ball, kind of pinball type style, and it goes somewhere. And it's really easy to make. And we're gonna do that in the very first 2 weeks, and it'll get you using the Unity editor. Like you're gonna figure out your way around the development environment. The next few games are going to be slightly more complicated. We're going to learn extra things as we do them. And then the end, the 4th game is, you probably won't finish this in class or even get close to like final to what you want to do, but it's going to be more of your dream game, because you're going to have all these tools in your toolbox on how to do this. You're going to learn basics of C+ or C# coding, which is a great language to start learning with. It's fairly like simple, like compared to other programming languages. Obviously, it's not when you have never done programming before. And you'll get a handle on the game design cycle. So yeah, in the first 2 weeks, you'll be very junior game developer, but hopefully by the end, you'll know your way around making games.
I do want to add something really quick, that this course that we design is for people who may not have, you know, like prior experience before, or like, you know, like have like very little coding experience. So if you don't have a tons of coding experience, please do not worry. You will be able, like, you will still be able to, you know, like learn the C# and also like, you know, like learn how to like operate in Unity, like using that language as well. So we have a question from Kenneth. So Con, let me know if you want to answer the question now, or should we hold on until later on?
So the question from Kenneth is, how many hours should we be able to commit to get the most of this class? It's kind of hard to answer that question personally, because the amount of hours you put into is really translates into what you're going to get out of this class. Because if you're sort of, there would be some assignments given out at the end of a class that sort of reinforce what we learned during the lecture. And if you're not like spending time with the stuff you learned, you probably won't have a mastery of it by the time we go to the next class. So like correct me if I'm wrong, Tao, but like it's just the minimum obviously is like 7 hours a week, but I think you can end up spending way more time than that, especially if you like feel passionate about it and you want to make tons of stuff. And games are very complex, even like simple ones. So they snowball into these projects that that take a while to figure out.
Yeah, like class is about 2.5 hours. So we have two classes a week. So like that's gonna be 5 hours. And this is, like very much like up a situation that you get out of like how much work you put in it. So it, like besides like the class time, it's like really up to you like how much time you want to like commit to making the most out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
let's dig into the curriculum a little bit.
yeah, so the class is 8 weeks. The first week, we're just gonna learn the Unity IDE, and IDE stands for development environment. Then we're gonna do like simple coding where we're gonna try to move things around, get some like input going, just really basic things. And by that time, we'll be finishing our first game. Then we're gonna move on to game design fundamentals, and we'll move on to particles physics and animations. Then week 5 is we're gonna move on to like important libraries, plugins, and the asset store. And that's important because as you will soon find out that like you can make everything yourself from scratch and it's great and it's amazing experience, but you only have so much time in a day. So using other people's work is great to like shortcut things. And yeah, asset store is a wonderful resource. Then we'll move on to AI logic and even more particles, physics, animation, scripting, whatever the case might be. And by this point, we should be done with our first 3 games. And we'll be moving on to prototyping your dream game. And that's where we're going to spend next 2 weeks, hopefully to get you to a state where you can like have something to submit to an iOS store, like the Apple Store or Android store, or maybe Steam. We'll see how it goes. Any questions about curriculum? It's kind of a fun image. In 2 weeks, you definitely have a little nuggets of knowledge in your brain, but in 3 months is where you're gonna start shining. But to be honest, it's gonna take longer than that to be like God for game development. But you'll get there. So let's do some more questions. So why do you guys want to build games? Would you mind writing them in chat? Your reasons why. I can share mine. Originally, I kind of wanted to see like graphical things happen on my computer. I thought that was like the easiest like way to get started with this. I just want to throw something on screen and see it. And I kind of went from there to then seeing other people being like, whoa, that's amazing. How did you do this? And then like that grows into like full on play testing where people like, if you're lucky, they will play your game and they don't want to put it down. They just want to keep playing it. And that's a fantastic feeling that doesn't come often. And it's great to get there. And for me personally, also, I kind of always stuck with that. Like, how does this work? How do I make something happen? I just really was fascinated. And it's still a big part of why I make games. Like, I'm sure, well, I don't know if I'm sure, but like if you ever thought about how does real-time strategy game gets all the units moving together, not going through each other, going around obstacles and like other things, it's complicated and it's fascinating. So Tyre says, I want to build games because I feel the beautiful intersection between art, storytelling, and tech. I definitely agree with that. And I think a lot of games don't get the like recognition that they're beautiful pieces of art. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, me too. We actually last year we hosted like a demo and play game night, And again, developers share with us, like games that like his company is making, and it is VR. And then he's specifically using those games for, like kids in the hospital, like as a way to like distract them, like when they go through like a sudden medical process. So I definitely do agree with what Tyra just said too.
Yeah, that's true. Kenneth said, I like to make games that connect people, entertaining, and can make some money. The first two we can definitely do. The last one is hard. Yeah. Yeah, so I was touched on this before. Our first project will be a Pachinko. Yeah, it's super easy game to build, and it will definitely get us like accustomed to Unity IDE. Our project number 2 will be Mario type platformer. Those are also fairly easy to make. And I think just about every game developer goes through making one of these. And that's why when you go to like indie stores, half of them are platformers. But like, I don't know, I always have a soft spot for these, and I always want to try every different combination of like tried and true mechanics, and then like having some weird new things added to them. It's great. So with this game, we'll learn how to like make level design, how to do character animations with sprite sheets, just like the basic game development stuff. And our third game is going to be full 3D horror experience. But this game is more targeted to learning a little bit more 3D. It's not that different from 2D, just one more dimension. And we'll spend more time on trying to make like the game more fun. We'll spend more time trying to figure out like what would be good game mechanics for this project. What sort of like, we will get introduction to a game loop, which is like something you do, then something happens in the game and then triggers you to do something else. And like, that's the basic loop at its core. And then how to expand that to include more things so it becomes more and more addictive or like satisfying. So we'll spend more time on that for the third project. Yeah, what games have you always wanted to create? Like, post your things in chat. I can speak a little bit mine to what I would like to make, and I sort of made attempts to doing this many times. As I mentioned before, XCOM is one of my favorite games, so obviously any sort of variations on that theme I'm all over it. I always wanted to make like RTS games and like other things that have sort of connection with all the units you have and like structures or whatever the thing might be in your games, where you feel attached. And when your like units, for example, are moody, they get scared and they run away, or like they just don't want to fight that day or something like that. I find those kind of things very interesting in the traditional game space. So Brandon says, I have an RPG idea that I really want to make. That's going to be a tough one because RPGs are huge. They take a really long time to make, but you know, we can do all of it. Kenneth says, I have an idea for hybrid FPS and magic type of game. And Ellen says point and click. So I'm guessing like adventure game. Kenneth also asked if Unity can be used to procedurally generate games, to make procedurally generated games like No Man's Sky. You definitely can, and that's generally what I like to do. That's just area of my interest. I like making procedurally generated stuff. Basically any engine can be used to make procedurally generated content. It really doesn't matter. Maybe it's easier if you like write your own engine, but that's entirely a different topic, and it will take you 100 years longer to do that. So yeah, we probably won't make your dream game in this class, but at least we'll get you some tools to get there. And our final game will be the dream game that you would always thought of making. Um, so like I said before, we will go through some prototyping practices. We'll try to like get rid of the ideas that might sound good in my first like thought, but we'll try to weed out all the things that are not necessary. We'll also talk about scope, which is huge in video games because, you know, you start making a game and you're like, oh, this feature would be cool, that feature would be cool, and you start compiling a giant document of features you'd like to add, and at the end of the day, you only have so much time. So keeping the scope down is one of the crucial things to getting games out. So I'll help you figure out how to do that, how to get things out of your scope.
Yeah, and this is a great segue to for us to meet Shannon, who took the course previously. Um, Shannon, do you want to unmute yourself and talk a little bit about your experience with the course and show us a little bit about what you created from the course?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name's Shannon, and I started making games a few months ago. I didn't have any coding experience when I entered this course, and now I've made a couple games, including one I got together with some of my classmates after the course for a game jam. And we ended up making a game in 48 hours using Unity, and we placed third in the game jam. And a lot of us were new to coding, but I'll talk a little more about the game that I made in the course. So this is a game that I made in the last 2 weeks of class. I decided to go with a sort of climbing platformer, something that always sort of stuck with me from when I was in school was the idea of failing, and that when you go into the workforce, no matter what you do, I myself want to be a creative writer, and I want to get into narrative design eventually, but something that always appealed to me was the fact that you're going to fail, but the way to be successful is to continue even though you're failing. And so I ended up making this game called Fail Fall, where you play this little character and you're trying to climb this cavern to meet a wizard at the top who will make all of your dreams come true. However, you have to avoid obstacles, like literal words, you will fail in order to succeed and get to the top. It's a very difficult game, but I will, can I share my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, I can show you a little bit about the game. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Give me 1 second. Okay. Can you try again?
Right, here we go. All right, cool. So this is Unity for anyone who has never used Unity. But yeah, this is my game, Fail Fall. Oh, hang on. Let me make sure that I'm sharing sound. There we go. All right, and all right. Yeah, just gotta make it to the top where the will fail. I also made, that was a little difficult. I made a invincibility thing. A little difficult, but when you get hit, you don't fail anymore. Gotta fix that. Let's see how high I can climb. Just because you make the game doesn't mean you're good at the game. Oh no! But yeah, and then I have like a little thing here. Like, oh no, looks like you failed. That's okay though. Everybody fails. The great thing is you can always try again and then start the game come over. But yeah, that's pretty much my game. I created everything in it, including the music. I like playing ukulele, so I created the music for it, and I did the animations. But don't worry, like if you can't draw or do animations, like Khan was saying, you can get stuff from the asset store. So if you're not good at drawing, don't worry, you can still make a functioning game. But yeah, that's the game I created. And again, I had no coding experience whatsoever, and I was able to make this. So you guys can make games too.
So what game jam did you start?
The Indie Game Academy, the one that Willem runs. Yeah, and it was peer voted, so we didn't win, or we didn't get third place just because Willem was doing it. Willem was the teacher in the last class. He was running a game jam. And yeah, we actually beat another class that he teaches for Indie Game Academy. They entered the jam and they got 7th place and we got 3rd. So, you know.
If anyone has any question, please feel free to add that in the chat too. So Shannon can share more of her experience from the course. Who else did you did the game jam with?
Let's see. I did it with 8 other people, and it was like most of the people that were in the class. So Genevieve and Dan. Trying to think of everyone else. Leo. Yeah, almost everyone that was in our class was doing the game jam. We just decided to work together.
So we have one question from Ellen. Are there any hardware, software requirement for this class other than Unity?
You pretty much just need Unity. I also used Procreate. And some of the other people in the class used Photoshop. If you're familiar with those softwares, I use Procreate because it's cheap and easier to use than Photoshop, in my opinion. Yeah, if you have familiarity with other hardware software, feel free to use those, but they're not required at all. Just Unity.
Yeah, I tend to make my art using GIMP, which is like shared, free like version of Photoshop. It's way worse than Photoshop, but it still works because I'm not trying to make anything like amazing with it. Just get me to the next stage in my game development stuff. And you can always like find people who are a little bit better like suited for a certain task. Like some people really love to make art, so they're generally going to be better at doing this than someone who loves to code or like audio design. You just kind of find the niche that you're most like satisfied and like you love. But this class will teach you how to like be knowledgeable in all of those areas, so you can like make decisions and try to find like what are you looking for your game.
Yeah, so if no one else has any question for Shannon, we will just move on to the next slide, which is, like more logistic. Can you share screen again, Con?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Thank you. Yeah, so the course will officially start on May 4th, and we will wrap everything up on June 24th. So that's 8 weeks. And all the class sessions are going to be on Tuesday, Thursday. And like I sent the message in the chat, we do record everything. So it's okay if you miss a session because like, I will share, like the link after every class. So like, it's pretty easy to, like catch up on things. And the time in the class is from 6 to 8:30 on the East Coast, so 3 to 5:30 on the West Coast. And every class will be on Zoom. All the information I will share before the first day of the class. And if anyone, if you are interested in enrolling for the class, please just like send in your information by May 1st. And let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so the total cost for the course is going to be $2,000. I know it's like a huge money for a lot of people to like put up front. So we do have payment plans available. If you want to know more information about the payment plans, please feel free to email me at events@playcrafting.com. And so like the standard plan that we offer, we just like break things, into like 4 installments. So it's like installment of $500, and then you just like pay that every other week. But if you do want to discuss more about, just like have like a plan that that work for you, please do feel free to email me. And we do have like a full page about the course where you can get more information about alumni's work. Go to bit.ly/PC Unity 2020, and that's where we have a lot more information. And I will also follow up with everyone, like with the link to everything too. So yeah, I think that wraps up our info session. Khan, do you have any last word you share with everyone here?
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned this, but we also have a Discord channel that will where you can ask questions, and like I'll help you out with whatever you get stuck, which I think is one of the more like valuable parts of this class, because some of those errors and like issues can be kind of tough to figure out.
Yeah, so we do have we have the Discord server for Playcrafting, and we will set up a dedicated channel for all the students. So that will be a great way for everyone to like stay in touch, and then like stay connected and like ask questions. And I also set up like a voice channel. So for the last course, everyone sometimes just like got together and like play, or like co-working like together on the server. So that was a lot of fun. Actually, before we wrap up, I do want to ask if anyone else has any other question before we leave. Should have done that, sorry. And you can add your question in the chat too.
Yeah.
So I don't see anyone having any question. Oh, Sarah, she just joined in. So Khan, can you repeat again about like the hardware question?
Yeah, so there's no requirement in hardware. You just have to have a good enough PC or a Mac or even Linux, actually. They can run Unity, and that's all you really need. It would be helpful to have some sort of image editing software that you like comfortable with, just to prototype in. But yeah, that's it.
Does it have to be on PC?
No, it doesn't have to be. It can be Mac or any. Or like if you draw on the phone, that also works, for example. But Unity has to run on the PC or Mac or Linux.
So Jared had a question. What level of programming experience would be needed entering this class?
None, absolutely none. We'll go over the basics. And all of these games are fairly simple from coding standpoint. So yeah, you don't need any experience there.
Yeah, I do want to mention that a lot, like most of everyone who took the course in the past, no one had any coding experience. So that's how we structure the course. So like that's not, if you don't have any experience, if you don't know anything about programming, do not worry. And this is where you're gonna learn everything. Sarah has another question. Will we have any opportunity to work on 3D projects, or does the class just cover working in 2D?
Yeah, so the first 2 games are in 2D, but our third one is all 3D. It's a 3D horror project. And then your fourth game, your dream game, can be anything. It can be either. And like, there isn't, from like learning how to do this, there really isn't much of a difference between 2D and 3D. Like when you work in Unity, it's literally the same environment for both. It's just 2D is simpler to explain concepts in because there's less stuff to worry about, and the math, if we do any math in this, is much simpler also in 2D.
Yeah, so Sarah, I know that you joined us a little bit late, but I will follow up with you with the link to the recording of this session, so don't worry. Okay, so if we don't have any other question, I think now is a good time to wrap up our info session. But if like if you have any question, like later on today or like later on this week or whenever, please do send me an email at events@playcrafting.com and I will get back to you ASAP. Do you want to say anything before we leave, Con?
Well, I'm hoping to see all of you guys when this class starts, and I'm really excited about this. I would love to share my knowledge of making games, and also I'd love to build a little community of people who can make games together. Because from what I know, like each one of these classes actually results in one of these communities where people get together and make games together, which I love seeing that.
Yeah, I would second that because from what Shannon just shared, we had that with the course that we just wrap up and the course before that too. We had like we still have people, like say in touch and working on like their own project, together after the course. So this is like a great way to meet people who meet like-minded people and just like like share the same passion and hobby. Yeah, so this is the wrap of our info session. I will share the link to this info session to everyone along with, like the link to the course page. And also like for you guys, so I have my email address too. If any question, please do feel free to get in touch via email. And thank you so much for joining us and hope to see you on May 4th. Okay. I want to end the meeting now, by the way.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Take care.